Hello everybody and welcome to another lesson from Roll-a-Ball tutorial series. This time we will make some heads-up displays showing our score and showing with text when we finish, when we win the game. Well, where we end up, we have our camera script and we counting our score in player object, if I recall. Yes, we are. And it's not really a good idea if you have just one player and a global scene like this. It's good even in this very easy example, very not complicated example. It's good habit to don't have any global values on concrete objects, but create the new object for whole game, some empty, it doesn't matter what it is, but empty is good because it's not rendered and it can just hold data, and rename it like game controller. So this game controller will hold anything that is global for our game, like for example the score, or it can be time or other scenes. For example, this will hold our heads-up display scene because it will be another scene. And if this game controller will have our score int property, integer, we have to send our score from the player to this game controller. So we will check how we counting the score right now in the player script, and right in the bottom here is the collect, and we counting the score on the player, and each time we collide with the collectible object or pickup object, we add +1 to the score. So now we will change it that we will not have property for score on our player, but property for game controller object, for example GCO. And if it's not exist, we will find it, GCO, and because it's only in one frame, it doesn't really matter how complicated it's the function. So I will write here the full BGE logic get current scene. In this scene, objects and object named game controller. So this will give me the object. It's not usual to write it on the one line. It's good to have BGE logic, for example, as one variable, and this variable we can get current scene and save it as some variable, and from this variable get objects, and from this object get game controller. But it's absolutely fine to write it as one line. And if we have this object, this game controller, we will change the score of this game controller. So not player score, but player game controller object score, and it should work fine. We can try it if you select the game controller and hit this icon and have game show debug properties, so we should see the score will count as it should. Okay, but we don't want this debug property in the final game. We want our own text, our own font. So we will make new scene. We have main scene prefabs, so we will create the new scene, but copy the rendering settings. So we don't have to manually check the resolution, anti-aliasing, and anything that we set in the main scene. Name it somehow, like heads-up display, for example, our HUD. Collapse this main scene, and if you see our HUD, it's empty, it don't even have the world, and we don't need the world, we need just empty scene that will hold our text objects. And of course camera, because we need somehow represent the data for the rendering. So place the camera, Alt R for clearing the rotation, and move it in Z axis some little bit up, so we will see the XY plane clearly. Sorry. And we will add two text objects for the score and like you win or something that will appear in the end of the game. So add text, and first of all, just when you add it, try to go to the game engine and nothing is seen. And if you go to the console, it will tell you that can find the default font. It happens to me on the Linux. I don't know about Windows, but either way you probably want to change the font of the text object in the Blender, because let's face it, the default one isn't really the best. But the text in the Blender game engine is kind of tricky. For example, all these settings doesn't matter. Only thing that is acceptable for the setting is a regular font and size. Everything else it's not recognized by the Blender game engine. It will just take the point where the object is, take the font which it should draw, and the size in which it will draw. Everything else don't have any influence. So pick some font. It should be true type font. If you are in Windows, you have a large collection of fonts, or you can download them from internet, of course. I will pick Arial, for example. Open the font, and if you are familiar with saving things in Blender, if you have some external file or data and it's applied on the object, it's automatically saved with the Blender, and if you delete this object, it will remove this data from the Blender itself. But with the text objects specifically for Blender game engine, even if you have the text, you should make fake user with this F button, because if you will move the file to some different location, even if it's not absolute, even if it's relative path to the font, it will break and it won't be able to find the font in the future. So make the fake user of it, and now we should see the text, but you probably notice that the text is bigger than we see it in the editor. And I tried various ways how to get rid of this weird effect, but it doesn't seem to have some constant behavior. Each font have different scaling issues, so just choose your font and try how it will scale in the Blender game engine. I know it's some overwork. If you know how to get rid of this, please let me know in the comments, of course. I am using weird method to figure out the scale, so I will just duplicate the text, and with Alt C I will convert it to mesh. So in the Blender game engine it's exactly how it looks in the editor, but I can't change it with a simple Python, so I will use it just to figure out the scale of the text. So if these two will match, I'm nearly there. It's pretty much for the scale of the text, and I will copy this scale, this 1.31, with Ctrl C. This I can delete, and I will apply this scale for the text. So I now see the text, how it will look in the Blender game engine. So now I can edit the text, write score 0. Oh, and place it wherever I want it. For example, here should be my score. Make sure you are in texture viewport. Okay, it's still getting bigger, but we will get rid of it with sizing. Set the size back to 1, and it will mean that the text will look exactly the same as it looks like right now in the editor. I know it's weird, but it's Blender game engine, and it's our score text, and we will make with duplicating the win text, for example, and it will say just you win. Oh, scale it a little bit. Okay, this could be good. If you see, all text is white, and materials don't have effect either in the fonts, so any way how to change the colors of the font is in object settings and display object color. So here I can make it, for example, red or orange red. So now the UN is orange red. But to get rid of this weird scaling, I will just set the size back to 1, and it will make them in the game engine bigger, but I already saw how it will look. It's weird, I know. And we can go back to our main scene. The HUD is prepared. If you now go to the engine, you will saw nothing, but if you select our camera, not in HUD but in main scene, camera main, we can make another logic breaks. It's of course possible to make with Python, but it's good to know that you have some prepared option with the logic breaks, that you don't have to necessarily write everything in Python. And if you know how to combine the logic breaks with Python, it's the best option always. So we will use add always sensor, not with true triggering, so this will run only in the first frame. The controller really doesn't matter if it is just for passing the signal to the actuator, and the actuator will be scene. So we will connect it to scene, and we want to add overlay scene, so our heads up display, and just pick the HUD, the heads up display. Now if you start the game, you see all our text, but score doesn't count, and we want the uWin text only in the end of the game. So we will have to make some script for the game controller. And as you already know, sensor always through triggering, and controller Python connected, set to module, and this will be game controller script dot mine, and we will create this script. It will be not really long and definitely should be easy. Add new script, game controller script.py. First line is same as always, import BGE, and our definition of our function with prepared controller. Find our object, so game controller object GCOP will be control owner. This shouldn't be any surprise. And now we want find our scene, but not the current one. We want the HUD scene, because this is where our text objects are. So our well-known trick for do it just in one frame. If HUD not in GCOP in our game controller, we will find it through the scene list. So we will define some C list. This will be a list of all our scenes. So BGE logic get scene list, and because we have more than 2 scenes and we don't really know the number of the scene, we know just its name, so we have to go through all the scenes and find the one with the right name. It may be overcomplicated, but keep in mind that everything that is in this if statement, it will run only in one frame. So the first frame will take maybe half a second. It will be longer than the other frames, but whatever, the other frames will run smoothly as it should. So here any loops don't really matter. So for scene in all scenes, so C list, and for each scene we will compare its name. So if scene name will equal to our HUD, because we know that this is the name of our scene that we want. And if we find this heads-up display scene, we will make it a property of our GCOP. I hope it makes sense, because as you should know, the property of the object can be whatever. It don't have to be string, character, number. It can be scene, it can be other objects, it can be some weird formulas, it can be scripts, it can be whatever. This is the magic about Python. It really don't guide your hand about what type of variable you are using. So the scene that we found it is our HUD, and this I hope I get the right indentation. This trick is good because in this special case this will actually don't run only one frame, because the scene list, the function gets scene list, get the list of the function, but the heads-up display is added afterwards. So in first frame we don't have the heads-up display. In first frame it runs the logic break of get overlay scene, so we don't have our scene. So in the next frame we run this if again, and in the second frame we actually get the HUD. So we don't have to worry about anything of this, because this if statement will make sure that we have our HUD. It doesn't matter how many frames it will take. It will take only 2, but we don't really have to care about it. We know that after this else we have our HUD, and we can make our script so we work with our heads-up display. And again, we won't just use one frame to encounter the objects, set the initial values for the objects and everything else. So we will use again the if something is in the object, for example score text not in GC object, and here we will set our score text, our uWin text, and initial value for uWin text. So GC score text will be not be I wanted to write BGE get current scene and whatever. We don't want in current scene, we want in HUD, in heads-up display. So I will just duplicate this, copy this, and in its heads-up display it's same as in any other scene, just objects and name of the object. And just to be sure, I will expand this, and the name of the object is score text. The another one, I will just copy this line, it will be uWin text, again in heads-up display, and the name is win text. And the last what will run through this in this first frame, you know that the text right now is set to uWin, but the whole game should be just empty, and only in the end of the game we will add the string, the text that we want to show. So in the first frame, the GC uWin text, this is our object, and text object in Blender Game Engine has the text value, so this text will equal to something, and in first frame and for the end to the game it will be just empty string, it will be nothing. And in every other frame, so if we already have all these objects, we can try if the score is changed in this frame, but it's not really necessary in this simple game. We can just every frame put the score to the text object, and it will not really affect our frame rate. So I will just set the GC object the score text, and this is the object, so his text value, yes, his text value will equal to, and now I will write the string that I want to write to this score text. It will be definitely score and plus something, plus the number of the score, of course. So it's GC of score, I hope, because we created here the score property, the integer. But this is string and this is integer. Python will not scream at you that you are doing something wrong, but you are doing. So we have to retype this integer to string, and it's actually pretty easy. Just write str and in the braces capture the number, and it should be everything for the score. Right now we can try it. So you can see the UN disappeared and the score is counting, and it's counting right as we want. Okay, so we just need to bring back our UN when the score is some value. So it's exactly how it sounds. If this GCOP score is equal to some value, and this value is 12 because we have 12 pickable objects. So if this value is 12, we will change the GCOP UN text to, of course, UN, and this should be all. Just save it, try it. Let's collect all these cubes. Score is counting like it should, and if it's 12, you win and the game is ended. Ta-da! And this is actually the end of the tutorial series. Definitely end of this lesson. If you have some questions, suggestions, if you don't understand something, whatever, write in the comments. And it's all. Thank you very much for watching, and till the next time, bye.